You have been thinking deeply your entire life. Not by choice, not as a habit you developed. It is simply how your mind works. It always has. But here is something nobody ever told you. All those years of deep thinking, all of those late nights processing, all of those moments of going deeper than everyone around you, they did not just shape how you think. They physically change your brain. Science has now confirmed what deep thinkers have always quietly sensed about themselves, that their mind is not just different in the way it feels. It is different in the way it is actually built. Today we are going to talk about exactly what years of deep thinking does to the human brain, what it builds, what it costs, and what it ultimately means about the kind of mind you are carrying. Stay till the end, because the last point is the one that reframes everything. Let's begin. Point number 1. Deep thinking physically rewires the brain. Most people think of thinking as something that happens in the brain. But what neuroscience has discovered is that thinking also changes the brain. Every time you think deeply about something, every time you analyze a situation from multiple angles, connect two unrelated ideas, or sit with a complex question for hours, your brain forms new neural connections, new pathways, new architecture. This is called neuroplasticity. And in deep thinkers, it works at an accelerated rate, because deep thinkers are constantly forming new connections, constantly building new pathways, constantly restructuring the way their brain processes the world. Research from the University of California found that people who engage in regular deep reflective thinking show measurably greater connectivity between different regions of the brain. Their brains are literally more connected, more integrated, more capable of holding complex and contradictory information simultaneously. You did not just develop a habit of thinking deeply. You build a different kind of brain, one connection at a time, over years, over decades. And that brain is now genuinely different from the brains of people who never went this deep. Point number 2. It develops a larger and more active prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain responsible for your most sophisticated mental functions. Planning, decision-making, emotional regulation, abstract reasoning, the ability to hold multiple perspectives simultaneously, the capacity to think about thinking itself. In people who have spent years thinking deeply, this region develops differently. It becomes more active, more developed, more dominant in how the brain processes experience. Studies using brain imaging have shown that individuals who regularly engage in deep reflective thinking show significantly higher activity in the prefrontal cortex compared to those who process life primarily at a surface level. This is why deep thinkers often have an almost uncomfortable level of self-awareness, why they can see their own flaws and contradictions so clearly, why they can hold their own perspective and someone else's perspective in mind simultaneously without needing to choose between them. The prefrontal cortex was being strengthened every single time your mind refused to accept a simple answer. Every single time you kept going when everyone else had already stopped thinking about it. Point number 3, it creates a brain that feels more, not less. Here is something that surprises most people when they first learn it. Deep thinking does not just change how you think, it changes how you feel. Years of deep thinking strengthen the connection between the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala, the brain's emotional processing center. And a stronger connection between these two regions means that emotional information is processed more deeply, more thoroughly, more completely. This is why deep thinkers do not just think more deeply, they feel more deeply. Why a piece of music can stop them completely. Why a stranger's pain lands in their chest like it happened to someone they love. why beauty and loss and meaning hit them in ways that leave other people confused. The thinking and the feeling are not separate in a deep thinker's brain. They are profoundly connected, each one amplifying the other. Years of deep thinking did not make you more analytical at the expense of being emotional. It made you more both, simultaneously, at the same time, all the time. And that combination is as rare as it is exhausting. Point number 4, it makes the brain harder to rest. Here is the cost, and it is real. A brain that spent years building deep neural pathways, developing a hyperactive default mode network, strengthening connections between thinking and feeling regions, does not simply switch off when you want it to. It cannot, because the architecture is built over years, does not have an off switch. Neuroscientists have found that the brains of highly reflective individuals show significantly more activity during rest states than average brains. Even when deep thinkers are doing nothing, their brains are processing, connecting, generating, running. This is why you cannot simply relax the way other people seem to, why holidays feel mentally loud even when they are physically quiet, why you can be in the most peaceful environment on earth and your mind is still working through something. This is not anxiety. This is not a disorder. This is a specific and very real cost of building a brain that was designed to run at depth. A high-performance engine does not idle the way an ordinary engine does. And your brain, after years of deep thinking, is no longer capable of ordinary idling. Point number 5, it ultimately builds a brain that sees what others cannot. Here is what all of this adds up to. After years of deep thinking, after all the rewiring and the development and the cost, you end up with a brain that is capable of something genuinely rare. It sees what other brains miss, the patterns beneath the surface, the connection between things that seem unrelated, the truth beneath what people are saying, the consequence that nobody else has thought through yet, the meaning inside the ordinary moment that everyone else walked past. This is not a personality trait. This is not a preference or a style. This is what years of building deeper neural pathways actually produces. A brain that processes reality at a level most brains simply do not reach. And the remarkable thing is that most deep thinkers do not fully recognize this about themselves. Because from the inside, it just feels like thinking. It just feels like the way your mind works. It does not feel special or rare or extraordinary. But from the outside, from the perspective of neuroscience, what your brain can do after years of this kind of thinking is genuinely remarkable. And it was built by you, one deep thought at a time. So let us bring this together. Years of deep thinking physically rewired your brain. It developed a larger, more active prefrontal cortex. It created a brain that feels as deeply as it thinks. It made rest genuinely difficult in ways most people never experience. And it ultimately built a brain that sees what other brains simply cannot reach. This was not free. It cost you sleep. It cost you the ability to simply switch off. It cost you the ease of surface-level living that most people around you seem to manage without effort. But what it built in return is a mind that is genuinely different, not just in how it feels from the inside, but in how it is actually constructed, in what it is actually capable of, in what it can see that most minds will never reach. If this video finally explains something about your mind that you always sensed but never had words for, leave a like. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who need to hear this. And subscribe to InnerIQ, because this is exactly what we do here. We decode the minds that the world never took the time to understand. Which of these 5 points surprised you the most? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. See you in the next one.